Imagine this. You wake up one morning and everything feels off. The alarm clock buzzes too loudly. The sunlight through the blinds feels too harsh. The day ahead looks like a mountain you never asked to climb. And in that moment you ask yourself quietly, is this it? Is this what life is supposed to feel like? Most of us have whispered this question at some point, though we rarely admit it out loud. Derren Brown, the master illusionist and thinker, wrote happy to answer that very whisper, not with cheap tricks or motivational slogans, but with a profound journey into philosophy, psychology, and the art of living well. Brown begins with a brutal observation. Modern culture has lied to us about happiness. We are told that if we chase success, buy more, polish our image, and gather enough likes or applause, happiness will magically appear. But the truth is, these pursuits often leave us emptier. Like chasing a horizon, the closer we run toward them, the further they seem. Happiness, he argues, is not a possession to be won but a skill to be practiced. He invites us to consider the Stoics, ancient philosophers who lived nearly 2,000 years ago, yet wrestled with the same human anxieties we face today. They asked, what is within my control and what is not? Their answer was simple but life-changing. You cannot control the weather or the market or the opinions of strangers, or even when you will die. But you can control your choices, your attitude, your response to events. Happiness, then, is built not by bending the world to your will but by adjusting your will to the world. Brown tells us the story of Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher born into slavery. He had no power, no wealth, no freedom by normal standards. Yet he taught that no one could enslave his mind. His body could be bound, but his judgment, his inner response, remained free. That simple insight that freedom lies within, not without, is one of the anchors of this book. And it forces us to rethink how we live. Think about how much time you spend resenting traffic, arguing with reality, or replaying an insult in your mind. None of these change the fact, but they change you. They eat your peace, they sour your hours. Brown challenges us to pause and ask, is this within my control? If not, let it go. That discipline of release is not weakness, but strength. But of course, our culture doesn't encourage release. It encourages comparison. Brown digs into how we measure our lives against curated versions of others. We scroll through pictures of vacations, careers, relationships, and assume everyone else is happier, more successful, more fulfilled. And in doing so, we rob ourselves of joy in our own lives. The Stoics would call this madness, trying to control the uncontrollable, desiring what is never truly ours. So what is ours? Our values, our attention, our choices. Brown insists we stop asking, am I happy? And instead ask, am I living in line with what I value? Happiness follows values like a shadow, but only if we move toward what matters. If kindness matters to you, live it. If creativity matters, practice it. If family matters, invest in it. The trap is waiting until circumstances are perfect before we act. Brown's voice is firm. Don't wait. Life is never perfect, but it is always happening. He explores how our obsession with control often makes us miserable. We fear loss, illness, death. We build walls of denial, pretending we and our loved ones will live forever. And then when loss inevitably arrives, we are shattered. The Stoics practiced something shocking. They rehearsed loss. They imagined the death of a friend, the burning of their home, their own final day. Not to be morbid, but to remind themselves, everything is temporary. Knowing this, they loved more fiercely, valued more deeply, lived more urgently. Brown argues that we, too, can find freedom by facing mortality, rather than running from it. He recalls stories of people who, after a brush with death, began to truly live. A man who nearly drowned and afterward stopped delaying joy. A woman who lost her partner and realized she had been sleepwalking through her days. The shadow of loss illuminated their gratitude. Brown suggests we don't need tragedy to wake us up. We can wake ourselves by remembering that life is fragile, and that is exactly what makes it precious. From here, he moves into relationships, which he calls both the greatest source of joy and of pain. We often expect too much from others, demanding they make us happy, fill our emptiness, fix our wounds. But no one can carry that weight. Brown urges us to see others not as saviors but as companions, fellow flawed travelers stumbling through life. To love them is not to demand perfection, but to embrace their imperfection. He shares a story of a couple who turned their marriage around not through dramatic gestures, but through daily honesty. They stopped assuming, stopped resenting, and started speaking. They admitted fear, gratitude, anger, desire. In doing so, they discovered intimacy where once there was silence. Brown notes that most relationships starve not from lack of love but from lack of truth. Speak truth and connection grows. Hide truth and love withers. But happiness is not only about how we treat others, it's also about how we treat ourselves. And here, Brown is particularly sharp. Many of us are brutal to ourselves in ways we would never be to a friend. We replay mistakes, we curse our flaws, we hold on to guilt like a badge. But he reminds us, the person you once were had less wisdom than the person you are now. Why condemn your younger self for what they could not yet know? Forgive them, thank them, they carried you here. Happiness requires this mercy. He also speaks about play, something adults often dismiss. Yet play keeps the soul alive. In play, we forget ego, status, competition. We enter a state of flow where time dissolves. Whether it's laughter with friends, creative hobbies, or simply being silly, play reminds us that joy is not earned, it is allowed. Brown admits that some of his happiest memories are not of professional triumphs but of small, playful moments that seemed insignificant at the time yet shine years later. And still, he is careful not to paint happiness as constant sunshine. Life will wound us. Grief, illness, failure, they will come. Happiness is not about denying pain but about carrying it without collapse. Brown stresses resilience not as hardness, but as flexibility. A tree that bends in the storm survives better than one that resists and snaps. To be resilient is to allow sorrow its place, but not its throne. To feel deeply, but still move forward. He circles back often to freedom, the freedom to choose our response. The rude driver, the lost job, the diagnosis, none of these dictate who we are. What dictates us is the meaning we assign, the story we tell. Two people can face the same tragedy. One sees only ruin, the other discovers strength. The story we tell ourselves is the frame of our life, and we are the storyteller. Brown shares his own struggles with despair and self-doubt. He confesses that even as a performer, receiving applause from thousands, he sometimes felt hollow afterward. It taught him that external validation, no matter how loud, cannot replace inner alignment. Applause fades. What endures is the quiet knowledge that you are living truthfully. As the book nears its conclusion, Brown issues a challenge. Stop drifting. Stop living by accident. Choose. Each morning, decide who you will be today. Each evening, reflect honestly. Did I live my values? Did I pay attention to what matters? Did I love well? Happiness is not a final destination to arrive at, but a practice to return to, day after day. And perhaps the most liberating insight is this: happiness is not about feeling good all the time. It is about living well even when we don't feel good. It is about standing in the storm and knowing the storm is not the end of the story. It is about dancing with life in all its mess, its beauty, its tragedy, its wonder. Brown leaves us with an image from the Stoics. Life is a play, and we are actors. We do not control the length of the script, nor the lines we are given, but we can control how we perform them. Some rush through, others stumble, some perform reluctantly, but we can choose to play our part with courage, humor, and heart. And when the curtain finally falls, we will know we lived not perfectly, but fully. So the question lingers: how will you live your role? Will you chase illusions, or will you embrace reality? Will you demand life be different, or will you dance with it as it is? The choice always is yours, and in that choice lies the quiet, enduring magic of happiness.